When using the animation tool, so the animation tool for IMVU, when we make a pose with this, by default, let's just enable auto key. When we pose the avatar, aside from the keyframe that's dropped into the timeline, the toolkit also automatically generates a name for the action. So this is our action sequence, and this is the ID that identifies this sequence. So if we export this, the name that's given to the file comes from this ID. Now, if we make several files, so if we then create a new project, so if we exported this, it would export as control_armature action. So if we created a new pose, same thing again, animation tool, let's get into pose mode, there's auto key, move the bone, get the marker, and again we get the action auto named. It uses the same name. So what we can do here, if we are making multiple poses for something, is just click and type a new name. It can be anything we want as long as it identifies the action or the pose that we are creating. So if we then exported this, instead of the custom_animation action, it will now be pose2.action. And we can do that for any subsequent pose that we create. So this is a new one. Auto key, just grab that, move it, drop in the key, and it renames. So again, we could just rename this pose 3, and that would mean that we would get a file called pose3.action.fbx. So this is what we do. If we are making multiple poses, we just rename the action so that we get a unique FBX file when we export, because the process is using the action name for the name of the FBX. And we can check this. So let's just do a quick pose. Doesn't really matter what it is, as long as we've got a couple of bones that are marked into the timeline and we have our action name set. We need to save this before we can export. And then when we export using the toolkit, we should see a confirmation that reflects the name of the action. So export, and there is the confirmation. Animation underscore pose3.action. So we've now got an FBX called that. And if we just repeat that for each pose, we'll get a separate FBX for each of them, uniquely named. So in Studio, if we then import the FBX file, we can see we've now got an FBX file that's named after our action. Animation underscore pose3.action.fbx. So we'll have one of these for each action that has its own unique name. So that also means once we've got our action sequence set up, in the config panel, we can select from our individually named, so if we'd had a list of them, our individually named actions. So that's how we can help clarify different animations. So we're not overriding existing animation sequences or causing conflicts. And we can do that by just renaming the action in Blender.